You are listening to the Mark Lesko Podcast, a podcast by diehard fans for fans. Mark covers all things Penn State football and the Pittsburgh Steelers, as well as anything related to the sports and fitness world. Tune in weekly to listen to a couple of dedicated fans talk about these topics without filters. Thank you for listening to the Mark Lesko Podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome back in to another episode of the Mark Lesko Podcast. Joined by special guest Gregg Garrity once again. Greg, it's great to have you back on, man. How you doing?
Sure, man. Yeah, good to see you. Doing well. How about yourself?
Good. Yeah, man. We were talking a little bit since the last time you were on. How many kids you have now?
2 now. Yeah, our oldest just turned 3 a couple of days ago.
Wow.
So a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So it's both boys. So it's a madhouse. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Last time we talked, I think you had one. Now you have 2. So
yeah.
Yeah, man. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I bet. How's some of your teammates doing, man? You staying in touch with Juwan and Deshaun and guys like that?
Yeah. We have a group chat. Deshaun's in. We were just catching up. One of our buddies just had a kid a couple weeks ago, Von Walker. So we're in a group chat with all those guys, and that kind of got fired up since Von had his baby boy Rome a couple weeks ago, and then Juwan and I talk every once in a while for sure. I'm heading up to he's putting on a celebrity basketball game out in his hometown in Jersey next Saturday, so I'm gonna be heading up for that. So I'm gonna see Juwan next week. So yeah, definitely keeping up with some of the guys for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Vaughn, I think I told you I played against him in high school.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Man, he's a real deal. I'll tell you.
Yeah, he's a good dude too. Yeah, he's a good one for sure.
Yeah, man, I would see him out sometimes, and yeah, real nice kid. But yeah, congratulations to him, Rome Walker. Wow, that's a heck of a name.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So being that last season, it wasn't a horrible season. They did pretty good. Still, the last time that we beat, when I say we, I mean as a fan, Penn State. Last time Penn State football beat Ohio State was when you were playing, and now you're married with 2 kids. So it's like that was a while ago, man. But what were your thoughts overall on the 2024 season?
Yes, I think it was a successful season. I think, still getting over that hump of Ohio State is, the big challenge for them. But just taking a step back and looking at the season from a 30,000-foot view, if you had told me preseason, hey, we're going to go to the Big Ten championship, we're going to make it to the semifinals, and it's going to come down to, basically one possession, I would have called that a successful season. Having gone to the Big Ten championship, having gone to the playoffs. I know with the expansion, there's a lot more wiggle room for, mistakes during the regular season. But, I was happy with the season. I know in the moment when they lost to Notre Dame, it was, gut wrenching. But again, after that kind of eases over and you take a look back at the season, again, I thought it was successful. So I thought 2024 was a good step for them. And I was happy to see a good chunk of guys. The majority of guys are coming back. So I think, they're primed for, just as good, if not better, 2025.
Yeah, man, you're right. It was a great overall season. Looking back on it, I go back and watch a lot of old episodes of my podcast sometimes just to listen to them and see where I can improve and stuff like that. And it was very emotional, especially, after like Ohio State and Oregon and then Notre Dame. It's very emotional. All season I wanted them to produce more points. and they never seem to get over that hump of like putting up like 40, 50 points at times against some opponents.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very frustrating for me. What do you think the highlight of the season was? I mean, the fact that they made the Big Ten title game, or what would you say the highlight of the season was last year?
I mean, a few things I guess stick out for me. The biggest memory I think I'll have from this season is just that first playoff game against SMU, just the home game. And I didn't go, but just seeing that environment on TV, the pick sixes, just like, again, I wasn't there, but like I was jumping up and down in my living room, like just being in that for the first time was just an awesome feeling. And then just the Boise State game, I was with a couple buddies. So just being in it, it just felt different, right? Like, yes, I know there's an Upton level energy for the Ohio States and Michigan and now USC and Oregon on, the Big Ten, the Big Ten games. But just being in that playoff was special. And even the Notre Dame game, like, that was an insane game. Of course, it didn't go our way, but I think, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, when I look back at that 2024 season, that's kind of what I remember, just making a little bit of a run in the playoffs. It didn't particularly end the sweetest, but, I think that run, that stretch of 2 games was just really, really fun.
Yeah. First of all, they made the top 4 in the playoff.
Yeah.
Which is the first time a Franklin coach team has done that, which was awesome. I knew that would help with recruiting. The one 5-star receiver we got, he said word for word that I saw you made top 4. I watched you in the playoff, and that was one thing that intrigued me. So I've been saying that for a long time, that we need to make the top 4 and make the playoff, national title, whatever, to help with recruiting, for one thing. Mm-hmm. And I think it definitely has, man. We got a lot of guys that we're in their top 4s recruiting wise. So I think it's definitely helping, but that was awesome that they made the top 4. Franklin, overall, like you said, it was a good season, man, in my opinion. Again, didn't beat Ohio State. That was a close game. They were up 10-0. I mean, they would be the eventual national champions, but had a gutsy performance against Oregon. Uncharacteristically, the defense didn't show up that game. And then, Notre Dame, that was not obviously an easy opponent, but we should have beat them, considering how much talent we had. And Abdul and everybody on that team. So
in the start they had too. What was it? Was it 10-0, 14-0? I mean, we got a quick jump on them.
Yeah, exactly. Pick 6 and then a field goal. Yep.
Yeah. It was a tough matchup for us. I think they matched up pretty well against us. So a couple mistakes, but it happens.
Yeah, and if you're looking at the Big Ten right now, man, like, we're easily, with everybody we have coming back, and that was one of my concerns about the 22 class, who was going to come back. I mean, Abdul was just too good. Obviously, he was the 3rd pick, highest since Saquon. So a lot of guys came back. I mean, we have the receiver additions. You played receiver. We had the receiver additions. Our defense is still stacked. Our secondary is stacked. I mean, we're in a good spot, man. It's like, it's this is going to be, we've said it. I've been saying it for the past 2 years, but this year really is, man. It's like Aller's last year, Katron and Nick's last year. And guys like that, Deny, they have one last season to make it happen. I mean, being that you were a player, Greg, and you were on that Cinderella team, 2016, you guys were the eventual Big Ten champions. And, you know, your team was unbelievable. It was so exciting. And some of your teammates were, you know, would go on to the NFL, and it was just a great season to watch.
Yeah.
What are they, you know, between last season and this season, you know, again, the loss with Ohio State and then losing to Notre Dame and into the offseason now, like, what are these guys going through with stuff like that? I mean,
there's, you know, obviously different seasons in the off season, right? So, coming off of spring ball here, and I guess it's been a while since they've come off of spring ball, but ramping things up from a conditioning standpoint and in the weight room standpoint. So early June, you know, they're probably kind of ramping up, I guess, if you want to call it like the second phase of the summer conditioning program. So the first phase was really just starting the foundations and, you know, kind of getting back in the swing of things, getting through the bumps and bruises of spring ball. But now is really when they start putting on the pounds in the weight room, more intense workouts for conditioning. You know, a bunch of the incoming freshmen are going to be on campus here in the next probably week or two. So kind of getting them in the fold, and then really starting to do, and I'm sure they've been doing this, but starting to really do more on-field stuff without coaches, you know, whether it be 7-on-7s or just, you know, footwork drills for the O-line, really starting to ramp up and starting to prep to get ready for, you know, summer camp and the eventual season. So it's coming quick. You know, we're already in June. You know, you think July is when camp starts, and then you have 3-4 weeks of camp, and then it's the season. So you're really looking at really 6 more weeks for them to really get ready for camp. So it's coming quick. So they're starting to ramp up. But I always like summer. You know, summer was always fun for me being up there. You would take, you know, especially as an upperclassman, you would take like one class in the summer. So you'd have one class, maybe 2 classes, not too intensive, just getting the credits in to be up there. Workouts would typically be in the morning, and then classes usually right afterwards. So you'd be done around noon, have the rest of your day to kind of enjoy yourself, do whatever, you know, go to the pool, play basketball, you know, really just hang out. So summer's fun. Summer's fun, especially if you're an upperclassman, kind of used to those grueling workouts and lifts, and then kind of getting to enjoy the rest of your day. So that's what they're going through right now, I would assume. But they've been getting ready. I've been talking to, I keep in touch with a good bit of the coaches. They're focused. So we'll see. I'm sure they're working right now. So hopefully that correlates to the season here.
Yeah, man. You know, I used to be a little critical of a little critical of Franklin, as like broad as that is. You know what I mean? There's a lot more to it than just Franklin, but you know, he's definitely progressed as a coach, man. Aller's progressed. You know, there's that hump of beating that elite team. You know, it just hasn't happened recently. But, you know, the psychology of last year, you know, I guess just to end, you know, the season, losing to Notre Dame. And then going into a season now where they're one of the best teams in the country, hands down. Yep. They have an argument to be number one. Like, what do you think? What's the psychology right now that you think of losing to Notre Dame, which was, you know, obviously that sucked and, you know, really shouldn't have happened, but it did. Yeah. And that's, you know, it is what it is. But what's the psychology going from last year to this year, and literally this year this is one of the best teams Penn State's ever had going into the season.
Yeah. Well, I think there's really two ways you can take it as a player, as a returning player. Obviously that emotional loss hurts, and then you wake up the next day or, a week later, you have that fire, like we got to get back at it. But you got to maintain that fire, that motivation, because it's easy just to kind of get back in the cycle. Okay, we have workouts this morning. I got to go to class, just kind of going through the motion of the off season. And eventually that fire might go out a little bit. And then you just kind of feed into the hype of what you're reading. Oh, like we're top 5, top 3 team, consensus team, could, win the national championship and kind of rest on that. And good, bad, or indifferent, I don't know how well that would play during the season. So that's one way they could go. And then, another way they could go is just kind of keeping the fire lit, staying focused. Hey, we don't want to have that feeling of that big loss of last year, keeping that fire going. Hey, we're going to come in, get better each and every single day and just work, keeping that fire lit, and that focus, and everybody bought in. And, I think it really reminds me of me coming through high school, actually. So my junior year, we lost the state semifinals. And it's a game that we should not have lost. I can go through like the whole game and everything of the game we lost, but we should not have lost. And I remember, we were just in the locker room. Like, obviously we were upset, and, that was the last game for those seniors, but a bunch of us were juniors as starters coming up, and we had those conversations. Like, we're not letting that happen again. So like, yeah, we got like 2 weeks off in the off season. Then we were working, we were lifting, conditioning. We would, as a receiver, receivers, quarterbacks, we would be out in the field and or at the very least in the indoor gym and just working literally every single day, and even on weekends. So we kind of took it up a notch, and again, kind of refused to have that feeling of last year. And then senior year, we ended up winning the state championship. We were 4th in the nation. We were blowing out teams. I think in the state championship, we won by like over 40 points. I think it was like 63-20, maybe 20. I don't know, but
yeah, I remember that, man.
We had a good run. So it reminds me of my junior and senior year of high school, kind of looking at what happened to them, the talent they're getting back. Because we had, I think by the end of my senior year, we had 5 or 6 guys on first team All-State. And I think they have kind of that same number of guys that have the capability of like being first team All-Americans. So, and again, it's just about attitude and keeping that fire lit. So I think if they stay focused and keep that motivation up, I think it can be a pretty exciting year.
Yeah, North Allegheny, that's a good comparison, man. The fact that you guys lost and came back. I'm going to pull up the schedule here, Greg.
Yep.
You already know what it is, but Nevada, so we open at home, but you make a great point, man, losing and then coming back even more motivated. If Penn State can do that this year with what they have, man, that's going to be scary. Yeah. Because they're so talented, every year I want at least a Heisman consideration for one of our guys. So
sure. Yep.
Aller in particular, man, he could like have a Heisman season, be the first overall pick. Any of these guys could have a potential career-changing season, but we open up with Nevada. We got Florida International, Villanova, Oregon's the big one.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll be back for that.
Yeah, hoping to. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys get like lifetime sideline passes, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got to kind of sign up and tell them you're going and figure out like logistically where you're like, they won't like put you up in a hotel or anything or pay for your parking. They'll just give you the pass to be on the sideline. But it's a pretty cool deal.
Yeah. I think you met Dante Brown before, but he's still around the area. He played for Joe. His last year was in 07. But he goes to pretty much every game, I think, which is pretty cool because he's around here. But yeah, that's cool. Oregon, that'll be a good one. UCLA, Northwestern. Is there anything particularly that stands out to you this season, game wise? I mean,
obviously the Oregon game being first Big Ten game, and it's coming off a bye.
Yep.
That's always a wild card, coming off a bye, and especially it being like your first tough opponent. I mean, let's call a spade, like Nevada, FIU, Villanova. There's no reason, we're 3-0. We're 3-0. Oregon's probably going to be 3-0. I don't know what their schedule looks like, but I assume they'd be 3-0. And then, buys can be tough, honestly, as players, because like as a fan, you think about it as extra rest, but like at the same point in time, you might come out and be a little rusty. Like a week will do that to you at that level, and even if it's just a drive or two, like that could be the difference in a game. So I personally would have liked another like West Virginia somewhere sprinkled in there, like somebody that's not like, like Alabama or like a Texas, but like somebody that can get us, kind of geared up for an Oregon. But I think they'll be up for that game. It's going to be a whiteout, thank God. And I think we always perform in whiteouts. We're obviously going to have a great advantage being in that environment. So we'll see. We'll see. I think, aside from that, I really think we have a favorable schedule. I don't know. I mean, I think Ohio State's going to be, very good this year, but, I'm hearing a lot about this Julian Sain at quarterback. Yeah. And I'm sure he's talented. We'll see, but it's just tough coming in, as a freshman starter at that level. Not too many guys have too much success at that level as a freshman. So we'll see. I know he has a lot of weapons that he has at his disposal. But I think on paper, at least this year, we have the better team. But, you got to play in between the lines. And then, obviously the rest of the schedule, I don't see too much of a big threat. Iowa's usually pretty tough away. Indiana, I think they lost a lot from last year. I don't think they'll have the same kind of Cinderella story as last year. Nebraska will probably take a step forward. They might be a tough one. But again, like Oregon, Ohio State, I think as a fan, if we can get through one of those, I'd take that as a win. Obviously, if we lose to Ohio State again, we'll be like, almost 10 years. That'll be 9 in a row that we've lost. But
that'll be 11. Yeah, probably. It's last time you played, man. That'll probably be 11 years, right?
That was 2016, right? So 2025 will be
10.
I think it'll be like 9. I think it'll be like 8 or 9 or 10 in a row. I don't know the exact math on it, but because we didn't play them in any Big Ten championships or anything, so I think it'll be 9 in a row. But if we can get through this schedule with one loss, shoot, if we can go undefeated, I'll take that too. But I think if we can get through Oregon, Ohio State, one out of those, and just kind of run the table through the rest, I think that would be successful. I think that would be a successful season. And I think that would take them to the Big Ten championship again. But we'll see. We always have a tight one, whether it's Iowa or Michigan State. UCLA might be tough. Nebraska, I mentioned. So we'll see. It's a long, grueling season in the Big Ten, so we'll see.
Yeah. When it comes to the schedule, Greg, Oregon, okay. Evan Stewart just announced they just announced that Evan Stewart's out for the season.
Okay, I didn't
That's
see
one
that.
of their best players.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got Dante Moore as their quarterback, who, if that's the Dante Moore I'm thinking of, he almost came to Penn State. They lost Dylan Gabriel. Obviously, a quarterback can make or break your season. And they lost their guy, Dylan Gabriel. They had a good season. It sucked that they lost to Ohio State because, Ohio State really just got out to a quick lead. But, that's last season. So he's gone. That gives us an advantage. You don't want to see anybody get hurt. And Evan Stewart, that's one of their best players. He's out too. I think we'll be okay against Oregon. Well-coached team. Yeah. And then you got Ohio State. Like you said, I don't think they're going to be that good this year either. And just to kind of take it back a little bit, man, like you say about Julian Sand being a freshman, your first year was Hackenberg, I think, was your quarterback.
Yep.
And you guys played MetLife your first game, right? Was that your – yeah.
Yep, that was my true freshman year, MetLife against Syracuse.
That was really exciting. A bit of throwback for your dad, too, because they played Syracuse when he played.
Yeah.
But, Hackenberg came in. He's one of the best quarterback prospects really ever, man, to be honest with you, especially at Penn State. And he did well, but he didn't even have national championship success, even though you guys couldn't go at the time, as good as he was. So Julian Sand, I think it'll be the same. He's a young guy. It's hard to come in as a freshman and really, go on and win a national title.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially as and I don't know what this is like, but being an 18-year-old and basically all of social media, I guess not all of social media, but Ohio State fans already calling you this generational talent. That puts a lot of weight on him, so who knows? He might be, the next, Patrick Mahomes for all I know. But all I know is I've never seen him play, and it's the first time he's going to be playing at this level. So we'll see. I know he has a lot of weapons. Don't get me wrong. So he has some guys to bail him out if he makes some mistakes, but I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball as effectively as last year. I think, defensively, I'm intrigued with their defense. Obviously, losing Knowles was our addition. I think Matt Patricia is more than capable of filling that role. And guys like Caleb Downs at safety for them really scare me. I think he can be a game wrecker. But you look on paper, they aren't as good as last year. I think last year's team, right? I think they did have the best team on paper, Ohio State. So, I think they'll take a step backwards, but still, I think, they're going to be a top 10 team. So it's not like they're going to be bad. But just on paper, I think we do have the better roster. But again, got to take it. They're not going to give it to you.
Absolutely not. I mean, Ohio State's Ohio State, man. They're always tough. When you guys beat them, you guys really jumped up in the polls because they have a lot of respect for Ohio State pollsters, which is rightfully so. And I've always said I respect Ohio State. I hate them, but I respect them. I mean, how can't you? You know what I mean? They're a powerhouse. They represent the Big Ten well. But this year could really be like 2008, if you remember that, Greg. They went into Columbus and won.
Yep. I was at that game.
Was it? You were at that game?
Yep.
Wow.
That was when Terrell Pryor was crying after he threw that pick or fumble.
Exactly.
Was it a pick or fumble? Either way, he was crying he was crying on the bench. I remember that.
Mark Rubin knocked it out, and Navarro picked it up.
Yeah.
So again, it's like freshman quarterback Terrell Pryor said he didn't want to come to Penn State because it was too out in the country. Yeah. Julian Saying, another freshman, we go into Columbus. We have a good team again. I mean, 08 was one of the best teams Penn State's ever had.
Yeah.
And then we go into Columbus again. So I hope it's a repeat, man. That was one of the most exciting games I ever watched. 08. I had AJ Wallace on, Greg. I don't know if you saw that or not, but yeah, man, that was cool to have him on because he was on that team and he's a legend at Penn State, obviously. But just looking at the roster, Carnell Tate from IMG, Jeremiah Smith, he's a freak.
Yeah.
Brandon Ennis. I mean, they got just so many talented players. I mean, so many talented recruits. They got the number one receiver from last year's class and this year's class. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
yeah, those first three guys at receiver scare me.
That's crazy.
You know, and they're just gonna keep reloading guys, which is just it's insane. That's always kind of been, I think, our biggest matchup or mismatch with Penn State is just our DBs cannot keep up with their top three guys at receiver. Like if we have like a Joey Porter, I know AJ Harris is gonna kind of be our one for this year. If he can slow down Jeremiah Smith, which I think that's the best you can do at college, just slow him down. You still have Brandon Ennis and Carnell Tate, like, and they always have these tight ends that just, make third down catches, so it's just, the athletes always scare me, but I don't know how effective they're going to be in the run game, which I think, we might be able to, play that in our hand. I don't know who James Peoples is. I know they struggled last year.
Yeah, they did.
It was due to injury on the O-line. So I don't know if they got a lot of their guys back from last year that were starters. But it looks like Philip Daniels there. He's a sophomore. Looks like a couple juniors. So I don't know if these guys were all starters. I don't know if they lost two guys, one guy, but I know they had some struggles with it last year. So we'll see. They're not going to have Judkins and Henderson to, be the two-headed monster for them. They're going to really rely on this freshman Julian Sayin and these three receivers, which I think the three receivers they have, the top three, are probably the best 1, 2, 3 in college football. But, Julian Sayin might take a little bit to get acclimated to, that level of play.
Yeah, man, like you said, the receiver room for Ohio State is pretty scary. But, I'll say this about Penn State too, just looking at the roster. They got 3 new receivers, man. And now, are they at the caliber of Ohio State? We don't know. I mean, Jeremiah Smith, between him and Ryan Williams, they're the 2 best guys in the country when it comes to probably college football, let alone the receivers, the receiving room.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the additions of those guys? I mean, literally 3 new guys that we got.
Yeah. I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic. Because I know we were excited about a couple additions over the last couple of years. That didn't necessarily pan out as well as fans probably would have liked. So again, cautiously optimistic. I think if you look at the tape, Devontae Ross is exciting. But I remember watching the tape of what was his name? Dante Cephas, right?
Yep.
You watched him at Kent State. It's like, we're getting this electric player,
Yeah.
guy that can be like a KJ Hamler, slot guys, even return guy, and just he didn't pan out. And then you look at a guy like Julian Fleming, which I hope he's doing okay. I know,
Yeah.
with his accident, just prayers out to him and his family. I know it's a tough time, but looking at his time at Penn State, again, didn't pan out exactly how fans or probably he would have wanted. So, you look at Devontae Ross, hopefully he can be a plug and play guy. Kyron Hudson, I think, can make some combative catches. And everything that I'm seeing and hearing about this Tysier Denmark, I know he's not a transfer guy, but I think he can be electric too. And then it's Pena, right, from Syracuse.
Pena, yeah.
I mean, he had 70 or 80 catches at Syracuse. So, we have talent. Again, the last season, I remember being a little bit excited for, the new additions they had and guys stepping up into new roles. And so we'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think we have the potential to take a big step in that room. And again, last year was a little bit of a weird year because I think we did have talent at the receiver room, but our number one target was a tight end. So it kind of made it seem like maybe that room was a little bit neglected, which, I'm not in the game planning meetings or, film rooms. So I'm sure it was a little bit of both of, hey, Warren's our guy and the receivers just aren't, playing well enough. But you don't see too many teams where their number one guy is this freak of a tight end.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just looking through the roster, man, like it's absolutely stacked. Trevor Payne's not listed yet, but he's on there. We got some depth at receiver. I mean, Caden Saunders, near 5-star guy when he came here.
Mm-hmm.
He's third string right now, but the line is insane. We still got, Cooper Cousins. He should.
I think he's going to be a staple for us, for next couple of years for sure. And then Dawkins coming back was huge from a leadership standpoint. Rucci coming in from Wisconsin, I think having another year in the system, I think is good, for him and that front. So I think they're strong up front. We got the quarterback, we got the running backs. This team reminds me a lot, offensively at least, of Ohio State from last year. They have this quarterback. I know Will Howard, he wasn't, he was a transfer and Drew Allen's not a transfer, but, Singleton and Allen being this Judkins and Henderson type backs, two-headed monsters, good O-line. Again, it comes down to the receivers. We don't have a Jeremiah Smith, I don't think. We'll see if we have a Carnell Tate or Brandon Innes. So I don't necessarily think they need to be Jeremiah Smith because I think Luke Reynolds is going to step into a pretty big role in the offense. I liked what I've seen from him when he's been, come somewhat in the spotlight. So offense, I think there's a lot of promise. And then defense, I think we can certainly reload too. It just comes a matter of the back end, being able to stay with the Ohio States and, Oregons of the world.
Yeah. Overall, like you said, like the O-line is absolutely stacked. I mean, we got Birchmeyer and Javen Williams still as backups. They're both, he's a 5-star guy, Javen, and then Birchmeyer, he's pretty much a 5-star guy too. But TJ Shanahan, I mean, Cooper Cousins, Nick Dawkins, that guy is, the fact that he's back that's about it. That's very important that he's back. He's a great player.
Yep.
And the 22 class, they came back, man. They came back, which is great to see.
Yeah.
They're stacked across the board. I mean, and then you got King back. They still got AJ Harris, Elliott Washington. I mean, pretty much between AJ Harris, Akee Wheatley, and Elliott Washington, we got like insane talent at the defensive back room.
On paper for sure. I'm excited about it. I think the King Mac return is bigger than what people are letting on. I think he's going to be a huge help for, looking at the way Knowles likes to play his defenses. I think he can kind of play all around. He can, be matched up against bigger tight ends or running backs. He's physical enough to stay with tight ends, but he's athletic enough to stay with these running backs. Tough enough to fill. So I'm excited about that. Him returning, and then Zaki obviously having just a great playoffs last couple of games of the season. AJ Harris, I think, is going to be a top back. Zion Tracy, I think there's a lot of promise with him. He had the pick 6 in the Ohio State game, so I think he can be kind of another gadget guy in the defense. Linebackers are going to be, I think, maybe the weaker point. What's that?
We got Amari Campbell too, which he's not listed.
Yeah, that's true. From UNC, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. I think linebackers might be the biggest question mark. I love Tony Rojas as an athlete. We'll see how he can hold up through a full season as a starter. Same with Dom DeLuca. I think these guys have been really good for stretches, but they haven't been the guy yet. They've shown flashes. So hopefully they can stay healthy and be those guys. But the front, I think, is really, really solid. I think Zane Durant coming back was huge for them. And you mentioned Deny. I think he's primed for, just another first round edge talent. So we'll see. We'll see. I know, with this Knowles defense, they say it takes some time to really get acclimated and everybody on the same page. But again, talking with some of these coaches, these kids are focused. So hopefully they can hit the ground running, and hopefully this can be another spotlight on our team, the defense.
Yeah. We got Anai White from A&M too. I'm a defensive end guy.
Yep.
Max Granville, he's out for the season.
Yeah, I just saw that. That's unfortunate. But next guy up mentality. I mean, I'm not too worried about this defense. I think year after year, I mean, as long as I can remember, from a defensive standpoint, we've been able to just reload. And whether there were holes to be filled, we've seen guys step up or guys transfer in. Like Arnold Abacady, right? He had that huge senior year when he transferred to us. I think King Mac can kind of have that type of impact on our defense. Again, I think he's a guy that a lot of people were very, very focused, and rightfully so, on the receivers and everything. But I think this King Mac transfer, I really did like that move.
Yeah, I mean, I was devastated when he left, and now he's back. Yeah, stacked at D-line. Alonzo Ford's back. I mean, so Zane Durant, I saw him after the Notre Dame loss, and then I just saw him again the other day, and I didn't even recognize him, man, because he's so big. Like, he's putting on size. It's crazy how big he is now. He's got to be pushing 300 pounds at least.
And he's athletic. He's athletic too. He's big, but he's athletic too. So if he needs to play more laterally, especially with these organs and like these option teams, and sweep teams. I know Ohio State does that a good bit too. He can run down that line and track dudes down.
Yeah, and you see him, man, like he's got that V going on. His arms are huge. Yep. I mean, he's just solid muscle. He's solid muscle. So that's good to see. But see Grunkmeyer around. He's a nice kid. I believe I saw Granville the other day. This was before the announcement that we got. But overall, man, we're in really good shape. So is there anything else you wanted to cover, Greg?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. I'm excited for this season.
Yeah, me too.
I've been I feel like college football has never really left this year. I've been able to play not a lot of because of the kids. I don't get too much free time.
Yeah.
But I've been playing college football 25 on my PlayStation a good bit. So I feel like I'm getting my fix. So I know the 26 version is coming out like in a month or so. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to that. So no, I'm excited for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if you've spoken to my current co-host now, Brett. Brett. He's a big recruiting guy, and we'll have to have you on with him sometime. But yeah, he plays that 24/7. I just ordered NCAA 09 on PS2. So
okay, there you go.
I play more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty fun. But Greg, you got to get going here just to end off. I don't know if you saw this post, but just the father-son legacies of Penn State. This is Penn State threads, but we got the bodies obviously. Masui's, Scholler, dad played some of them. Justin King, Terry Smith.
Yep.
Pittman, Lamar, obviously.
Yeah.
Jay and Joe. I saw Jay yesterday, and then you and your dad. So.
Yep.
And grandfather.
Yep.
That's a crazy bloodline, man. That was Penn State and Joe. He always had their sons playing too. So.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there really haven't been too many guys recently, huh? Legacy guys, but I guess that was a stupid statement.
LeVar, but that's LeVar. That's an obvious one. I mean, I'm trying to think of anybody else.
I mean, it's a special place. I think when you're ingrained in that program, in that history, like for me, that was just something I was always around. We would always go to the blue and white game. I would be in the Lash, building. We would always take a tour, walk through like the locker room, and Spider at the time, Spider Caldwell, who was the equipment manager. And now he does stuff with the museum in Beaver Stadium. But just the best guy. So I had a relationship with guys like Spider, and Kirk. And all these guys that are just a part of the program, I had relationships with them when I was 10 years old, and then when I came in, Spider was still the equipment manager, and he eventually left. It's still within Penn State, but it's just something that's ingrained, and it's a special place. It really is. So I didn't even know Rucci's dad played there either. So that's good to see. That's cool. So once it's in you, man, it's I mean, shoot, it's a special place. It's special people, and it's the relationships that you'll have for life. So it goes beyond just football, which I think is, I can't speak for other programs, but I know Penn State's special in that aspect.
It is, man. It is, and I felt that way as a student, let alone for you as a player. It is. It's a very special place. Let's pray that they make it happen this year. We don't have much time, but the Steelers got a quarterback, man. So We're going to the Super Bowl now.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I've been. I know we've talked in the past, but I've kind of been checked out on them since they made that Kenny Pickett pick. I knew that the second I saw or I heard his name called that draft night, I knew it would set them back minimum of 4 years. And here we are, so we'll see. We'll see. I hate the way they've run that organization for the last, I don't know, close to 10 years. So
yeah.
I just don't think they've built it right. And I think that I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. The old GM.
Well, yeah. We have Khan now, but
not Khan. Why am I blanking on his name? To be honest with you. But I think he got way too much credit for the success we had, the little success we've had. We've always had great teams when you think about Ben, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, like all this talent, DeCastro, Pouncey, all these guys. But it didn't amount to anything. So I think especially over the last 5 years, I've just been fed up with how they've run things, but especially the last 10, I don't think it's been good. So we'll see. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be the second coming for us, but who knows? He's certainly not the long-term answer. That's for sure.
I either want Rodgers to go out Cinderella season, or we really suck and then get a good pick. Finally.
See, that's kind of what I've been hoping for the last 5 years. So we're in this purgatory of,
it's crazy.
Hey, we're one game above 500. We have pick 20. Who we getting?
Exactly.
So at pick 20, all the best quarterbacks are gone. And for whatever reason, they've either whiffed or just not picking up their needs. And I think their biggest need for the longest time was offensive line. And they refuse to spend money in free agency. I don't know if it's scouting or what, but their first round picks have just been, I don't know. I don't get it. But I mean, we could go on for another 30 minutes about what I would have done differently over the last 5-6 years with them, but whatever.
Well, we talked about the fact that they never get a skill guy in the first round. I mean, and I was watching the draft on my computer when they drafted Pickett. I literally almost punched my screen. Yeah. I'm glad I did it. But like you, I knew that wouldn't work. I just knew it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have it in front of me. I'm sure you can pull it up, but when was their last hit? Other first.
Say that again.
Pick, was it JJ or was it TJ Watt?
Their last
trade, but he wasn't a pick. He was just an addition. You there?
Yeah, you were breaking up there a little bit. Can you hear?
Oh. There we go. Okay. I don't know if that's.
Can you hear me all right?
Okay, maybe that's a little better.
Yeah, I can.
I don't know what the last hit they've had in the first round. I know they've had a lot more whiffs and busts than guys that have actually been serious contributors. Because in the first round, you don't want guys to just be, contributors. You want them to be standout guys, Pro Bowl, All Pro caliber guys. That's the goal in the first round. So,
and then they have these deeper receivers too, man. What? It's like we're a magnet for that stuff. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we kind of knew that with Pickens. He had attitude issues at Georgia. Um,
Yeah.
Claypool, I don't know what his story was really coming out of high school. I didn't really love that pick. He did good for a year or two. Antonio Brown just hit his brain, just kind of quit on him. Juju, I thought Juju picked up more flack than he should have. Yeah, he danced on TikTok, like whatever. Like I think people gave him too much grief for that. But yeah, I don't know. I think guys have a pretty long leash in that locker room. I think that's why players like playing for Mike Tomlin, and I think there's a time and place for that. Deontay Johnson's another one, but yeah, like Devin Bush. We traded up to get him. I hated that too.
I remember.
Forgot about him.
When that happened, I was excited, but I thought they traded up. Like that's great. They got him on that, and then
I'm all for making moves in the draft, but like to trade up for him, I hated that. So keep going. That was 2019. I mean, Terrell Edmonds. I knew that was another like. See, these are the things I talk about this with friends and just people in general around the area. Like, I know when 90% of the time, I feel like I know when these first round picks are going to, be something or not. Like the last two we saw, Terrell Edmonds, I was like, why the heck would we pick Terrell? Like he was a second to third round graded guy. We could have easily gotten him late in the second round. Devin Bush, I hated that. I remember talking to a couple of Penn State coaches before the draft. It was because that year when they played Michigan, that was that was Saquon's year, senior year, where they smacked Michigan in the whiteout. I remember talking to a couple of the coaches at Penn State. They literally game planned like different motions with, like, I don't know if you remember, it was Trace and Saquon in the backfield, and then pre-snap they did like this little shift.
Yeah.
Where Saquon got the snap right away. They literally game planned different little motions and shifts like that to attack Devin Bush. So just like they looked at the film, they were like, hey, this guy can't adjust and he can't fill. So we're going to attack that. We're going to get leverage on this kid and literally just go right at him. And that's literally what they did. And the Steelers picked him up 10th overall. So keep going. I know I got to get going in a minute, but I'm curious. So TJ Watt, that was a hit. That was a good one.
Absolutely.
Artie Burns
exactly.
in 2016.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Bud Dupree, he was decent. I think we would have liked more production out of him earlier in his career. He was kind of a late bloomer. Ryan Shazier, I think he would have been a good impact guy. Jarvis Jones, complete whiff. I mean, so we're what, 12 years in, and there's been like two guys, and I know, again, I mentioned Minka through trade, but he wasn't drafted. Like, we saw him for a year or two at Miami, and we gave up a first round pick for him. DeCastro was a good pick. So yeah. I mean, again, we could go on and on, but like these first round picks have been bad since I think 2012. I would say since 2012 they've been bad, because I saw DeCastro in 12 and then Cam Hayward in 11. So those are two hits. So it's been a good, call it 12 years of just very mediocre drafts.
Yeah, so, and guys like Jarvis Jones, for example, he was so talented in college. That was the Manti Te'o draft.
Yeah, he and that's another thing. Like, yeah, you're gonna have busts in the first round. I thought the same thing. He was a stud in the SEC, which is usually a surefire. Like, hey, yeah, let's get him. Yeah, you're gonna have busts, but again, like, you draft Terrell Edmonds, you draft Artie Burns, you draft Kenny Pickett. Like, these guys are like, they could be something, but like, they're going to need a lot of development. I think they rely too much on, hey, we can develop this guy how we want. Like, he has the frame, he has the metrics.
Yeah.
Where it's like, but he hasn't shown it on film. Yeah, you can look at this kid on paper, his size, his testing. It might look good, but watch him on film. So I'm getting a little fired up here, but if I were the GM over the last 10 years, I'm not saying I would have won a Super Bowl, but I think I would have been able to construct a team that's won a playoff game.
I mean, like, we need a quarterback, man. I want to get Arch Manning, but I don't even know if he's coming out next year, for one thing. Like, they have to get a quarterback.
Yeah, and I'm not even really. And this is the other thing. Like, I feel like, so whenever they drafted Kenny Pickett, I feel like they felt cornered in, hey, we need to draft a quarterback. Not necessarily we believe this guy is going to, win us multiple Super Bowls, but like, he was the best guy available, so we took him. Where I think the mindset needs to be like, hey, if a guy isn't there, sacrifice a year, have a losing season, get a top 10 or 15 pick. You can draft or you can trade up if need be to get your guy. But like, fans, people in the organization, they're so caught up in, oh, Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. I don't really care. I'd rather have a losing season to have 10 years of success rather than 10 years of just, okay, we got a game over 500 where we have pick 20 and we're going to, roll the dice on this guy.
Yeah.
It's just the same story every year. So, it is what it is. I feel like, and I've never been in that career, so I don't know, but I feel like GMs in the NFL, they just like, I don't get it a lot of times. Like, you look at the Browns, how can you not have a quarterback for the last 30, 40 years? Like, that just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. We're gonna have to like have a whole other episode for the Steelers, man, because even when Big Ben was still there, they did not handle that right at all.
No.
It's like we all knew this was gonna happen, where we were just gonna go into like nothingness,
which is fine. That happens. Like, look at the Patriots. Like, I don't know. They've been bad for 4 years, but I think they're starting to like assemble. Okay, they got Drake May. I think he could be solid. Like, they're starting to draft some of these players. Like, they got Travion Henderson. They're getting some athletes. They're building up their defense. Like, it's okay to not be good for a couple of years. Like, it's okay. That's a lot of times better in the long term, which fans don't understand, I don't think. And I think organizationally they're so fixated on not having a losing season, but yeah, I don't know. I'll digress from here. We'll see what happens this season, but again, Aaron Rodgers is certainly not going to be our quarterback for the next 10 years.
Yeah, well, just to end, Greg, your dad, he was next to Jack Lambert's locker. I think it was Jack Lambert and Jack Ham, and they used to have ashtrays in the locker room. Maybe we need to bring that back. Bring back.
Yeah.
Smoking and beers at halftime.
Whatever they're doing now, it's not working.
It's not. But all right, Greg, thanks again for coming on, man. It was great to have you back on, and hopefully we'll have you on during the season a little bit. And like I said, you got some merch coming your way, but tell the family I say hi and have fun at that tournament with Jawan. So
yeah. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, always good hopping on.
Yep. All right, buddy. You have a good rest of your day.
Yep, you too.